the sources you sent over for today are, well, there's something else entirely. We often look at documents trying to pin down the cultural moment, but this one, it feels like it's trying to define the cultural meltdown.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Today, we're looking at excerpts from, frankly, a work of art.
Well,
Linguistic performance art, maybe, but it's dressed up as a policy paper. It's called Universal He, a retro-linguistic equity proposal.
and the author, J.L. Whitfield, who we're just calling Pastor John for this discussion, he's laid out this blueprint. It seems designed for maximum confusion, but somehow there's this weird clarity underneath it all.
Exactly. It's got this surprising core.
So our goal today really is to just appreciate the sheer wonderful absurdity of Pastor John's proposal. And then this is the interesting part, try and figure out the actual point, the very sharp point that seems to be hiding under all that sarcasm.
It's a masterclass in reframing, isn't it?
Totally. It repackages the linguistic past, something really old, as this like dazzling cutting edge future. It's radical conservatism, but with, progressive marketing buzzwords all over it.
Fundamentally, it's an exercise in appreciating irony. We're looking at this proposed solution that says, okay, we have decades of linguistic complexity, all this cultural confusion, this simmering public anxiety.
Right.
And the most radical solution, the really groundbreaking idea, just delete all that complexity. Just, go back to the old way.
And you see that tone right from the start in the abstract, which is just, wow, a masterclass in sarcasm. Pastor John notes, after decades of tireless activism, billions spent on sensitivity training, and this is my favorite bit, several collapses of Western civilization.
He really goes there.
Oh, yeah. After all that, the big revolutionary idea we've apparently been waiting for is just using he again for everyone.
And that framing is so important. He doesn't just criticize, the new norms or the number of pronouns. He paints the entire current state of language as this massive psychological burden, a source of genuine mass anxiety.
He literally says people are waking up trembling, worried about getting fired or, publicly shamed for saying the wrong word before they've even had their coffee.
And does it sound like a public health crisis?
It does. And he gives these really vivid, almost too real examples of this linguistic panic, the sort of internal chatter he thinks is dominating public life now.
Like what?
Things like people asking themselves, can I still say he? Did they change the rule again? But the one that really got me that captures the sheer administrative overload of just speaking English today is this question. Is Zer plural now or just spiritually expansive?
Oh, that's brilliant. That Zer line. It just perfectly sums up the dilemma he's satirizing, right? This constant dizzying pace of tiny adjustments, these micro rules, and the real fear of getting it wrong, of the social penalty that comes with it.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, look, in trying to be absolutely precise and inclusive with language, we've actually ended up creating widespread paranoia, anxiety, not clarity, not comfort, just exhaustion from trying to keep up.
The effort is the point, isn't it? That's his big claim, that linguistic progress isn't measured in poetry anymore, it's measured in panic attacks. Yeah. And if the way language is evolving makes people terrified to actually speak, well, then maybe that evolution has kind of failed its main job, which is, communication.
And that observation, regardless of the completely absurd solution he proposes later, that observation itself is a pretty stinging piece of social critique.
Definitely.
It's the diagnosis that, in his view, justifies the absurdity of the cure he's offering. He's basically saying, look, things are already absurd, so let's fight fire with fire. Let's use an absurd corrective.
Okay, let's get into that corrective. It's time for what Pastor John calls the groundbreaking discovery, Section 1, He 2.0. And he promises this is dazzlingly modern, entirely original, and not at all ancient.
Right. It's the ultimate rebranding exercise. The solution is just he, the universal pronoun. But, and this is crucial, he insists this isn't the old, problematic he. Oh, no.
No, this is he 2.0.
Exactly. It's been scrubbed, modernized. It's got all the cool labels slapped on it. Inclusive, carbon neutral, gluten-free.
Gluten-free, a pronoun.
Apparently, the joke, of course, is that these labels are completely meaningless when you apply them to a word that's been around since, the 12th century?
Hey.
It's pure marketing spin.
Whoever's in his fictional marketing department deserves a raise, even if all they did was, recycle the past. But what really lifts this from just being commentary into, high comedy is the scope, the ridiculously broad scope of this universal he.
Oh, the scope is everything.
It's not just for men or people who don't like current pronouns. It covers basically anything that exists, living, dead, fermented.
You really have to read the list to get the full effect of the satire. Pastor John makes sure he 2.0 covers every single possible thing that might ever need a pronoun. So he explicitly says he includes women. Why? Because
inclusion. This makes perfect sense.
He includes non-binary individuals. The reason, because infinity.
Yeah.
The implication being, if inclusion is the goal, we just need to stretch the meaning infinitely. Maximum semantic stretch.
Right. Just keep stretching until it covers everything. But then we get to the non-human stuff. And frankly, this is where the document just shines.
This is the peak.
He includes artificial intelligence, which he clarifies is necessary because, and I quote, they're people now, apparently.
Just a nice little jab there at how quickly we seem to be accepting AI sentience.
It really captures that speed, doesn't it? How fast culture seems to update its definition of who or what counts as a person. But yeah, as you said, the satire really peaks with the trivial stuff. The definitive list confirms he also includes your cat, your therapist.
My therapist. He gets lumped in, apparently. And the absolute high point, the real linguistic overreach, your sourdough starter.
The sourdough starter. That's it. That's the linguistic straw that breaks the camel's back. Pastor John is basically saying, look, if we've reached a point where we are seriously debating the right identifier for, a lump of fermented flour in water.
Beloved though it may be.
Beloved, yes. But still, if we're there, then the whole system is just broken. It's over-engineered. He's saying, if we're already this absurd, let's just embrace it, go full circle, find clarity in the most ridiculous place possible.
And that journey takes us right back to the core historical irony of this whole retro-linguistic idea. Pastor John claims he will once again simply mean human, which he suggests is what it meant naturally before the English department unionized.
Oh, that line. It's the perfect little dig at academia, isn't it? Blaming them for complicating everything.
He's positioning academics as the villains who intentionally confused everyone with endless categories and new words. But he knows he anticipates the obvious question. The skeptic in the audience is going to say,
hang on a minute. Didn't we used to do exactly this? He actually puts that question in the paper.
He does. He anticipates the critique. And his answer is just wonderfully cynical, perfectly crafted for this piece. He admits it. Yes, we did used to do this. But back then it was oppressive. Now it's progressive.
Wow.
He claims the entire difference, all the moral weight, the political significance, it's all just in the marketing.
That's really the core of this whole retrolinguistic equity thing, isn't it? He's arguing that social value is basically just fashion. It changes with the trends.
Exactly.
So what used to be called androcentric language, a term loaded with critique about bias, is now magically transformed into retrolinguistic equity. It's not just recycling old ideas. It's like conceptual arbitrage. He's buying low and selling high on meaning itself.
He's definitely highlighting something about contemporary culture, isn't he? This idea that novelty, just being new, automatically means something is morally better. Pastor John is saying, watch this. I can take this old, problematic idea, slap a shiny, new, progressive-sounding label on it, and because people value new more than substance, they'll buy it. It's like applying consumer culture critique to language itself.
And he really hammers that point about our short cultural memory. This might be the deepest cut in this whole section. He finishes the introduction with this incredibly dismissive line, claiming nobody will even notice they're just reusing an old idea because, and again I quote, it's been several decades since people read books.
Oof, that's harsh.
It is. The joke is that history itself is forgotten in this desperate rush for the next big linguistic thing.
He's implying that if you don't read history, every old idea feels like a brand new revelation.
Okay, so we understand the product now. 2.0. Inclusive, carbon neutral, gluten-free, the works. Now we need to look at the sales pitch. This is where the proposal really goes off the rails into governmental absurdities. Section 2. The spectacular, unsupported benefits.
Ah, yes, the benefits. And Pastor John, make sure to add that crucial little disclaimer. These projections are backed by precisely peer-reviewed studies.
Right. The complete lack of evidence is presented almost like proof of its genius, like it's too visionary for studies.
And what I find absolutely fascinating is the first benefit he lists. It's not, universal understanding or social harmony or anything like that. It's universal offense.
Wait, say that again? Universal offense?
Yep. He's not promising paradise. He's promising equitable misery.
Okay, hold on. Pastor John states the goal isn't happiness, but actually restoring cosmic balance by making sure everyone will be equally offended. Why? Why on earth would equal offense be a good thing?
Well, in his satirical view, the current linguistic climate is defined by an inequity of offense, right? Some people feel constantly under attack or slighted, while others feel maybe overly protected or constantly affirmed.
Okay.
So by forcing everyone, men, women, non-binary folks, AI, cats, sourdough starters, everyone under this single umbrella of he guarantees that everyone is going to find it slightly annoying or inadequate
Oh.
or just wrong.
So if everyone's equally irritated,
Then maybe, just maybe, true balance has been achieved through a kind of high-minded pessimism. If everyone's equally unhappy with the universal term, nobody can claim special victimhood based on pronouns anymore. It's bleakly democratic.
it sounds like the linguistic version of mutually assured destruction, but with annoyance instead of nukes. Okay, so from cosmic balance, we shift pretty abruptly to the practical stuff. Benefit number 2, administrative efficiency. This is where the satire really hits the corporate world.
Oh, absolutely. The efficiency gains he lists are hilarious because they target the real felt pain points of modern corporate life. Yeah. Pastor John guarantees that HR departments nationwide can finally delete 47 PowerPoint slides labeled gender spectrum orientation.
47. That's such a specific soul-crushing number. You can just picture those slides. It's a brilliant laugh-out-loud moment because it captures the sheer bureaucratic weight of all the training, the updates, the compliance checks.
Think about the actual work involved. Someone has to write those slides, then update them every few months. Then employees have to sit through them, probably terrified of getting the quiz wrong.
Yeah.
Pastor John is proposing that by just ditching the complexity, we ditch this whole layer of administrative hassle that's become, frankly, a major source of stress for everyone.
It's a huge satirical takedown of corporate sensitivity culture, framed as an efficiency measure.
It really speaks volumes about the amount of time, money, and just mental energy that gets poured into simply keeping company policies aligned with rapidly changing cultural norms. By going back to Pastor John suggests we just wipe the slate clean, free up all those resources currently trapped in this endless cycle of correction and re-education.
And that claimed efficiency gain leads directly into benefit 3, economic restructuring. Pastor John says entire industries built on this complexity. Think about it, reprinting name tags constantly, rewriting movie scripts, revising dictionaries every year just to keep up. Those industries will just collapse.
And he presents this collapse not as some kind of tragedy needing a government bailout, but as a major economic plus. He's proposing a massive shift of capital. All the money previously spent chasing grammatical correctness can now be used for tangible stuff.
And what does he suggest we spend this newfound capital on? Not more linguistic research, that's for sure. He proposes using it for things people actually want, hover cars or affordable eggs.
It's the perfect juxtaposition, isn't it? Hover cars or affordable eggs. He's saying, look, we're pouring vast sums into these, let's be honest, pretty esoteric language debates that don't really affect the average person's material life, when we could be funding actual scientific progress or fixing basic economic problems like the price of breakfast.
The scale of that trade-off, linguistic perfection versus cheaper eggs, that's the joke right there. It makes the whole pronoun debate seem trivial by framing it against, actual human needs.
I mean, if he guarantees affordable eggs, maybe he's onto something.
I'm almost sold on that point, Elusive. But the benefits keep coming. Next up is mental health. The paper claims huge relief, specifically for frontline service workers.
Yeah, this is a really important part of the satire. He singles out teachers, nurses, waiters, people who have tons of public interactions every day. He claims they won't need daily pronoun briefings before starting their shifts anymore.
The daily pronoun briefing, it sounds like something out of a dystopian novel, but also kind of plausible.
Exactly. It highlights the psychological burden on people in the service industry, the ones on the cultural front lines. They're the ones forced to navigate every tiny shift in communication standards, often under intense public scrutiny, where one slip-up can lead to immediate, very public trouble.
That daily stress, that anxiety of having to perform this emotional labor perfectly just to avoid getting yelled at or shamed online, that's what Pastor John claims his simple, totally retrograde solution will fix. It's basically an administrative solution to what he frames as a psychological crisis.
And then, finally, we reach the absolute summit of absurdity. Benefit number 5, the environmental impact. Pastor John makes the completely, utterly unsupported claim that using fewer syllables and fewer keystrokes will reduce our collective carbon footprint.
He actually says the planet heals because we type he instead of longer pronouns. Fewer keystrokes equals a smaller carbon footprint. It's perfect. The ultimate nonsensical conclusion.
It's the necessary cherry on top of the satirical benefits cake, isn't it? Connecting this hyperlocal grammatical choice to, global existential threats, It perfectly mocks that modern tendency to link absolutely everything what we eat, the words we use to saving the planet, even when the connection is completely ridiculous.
It's so true. It feels like any proposal today, no matter how small, has to promise it will somehow heal the earth to be taken seriously. Pastor John clearly understands the game.
He absolutely does. Now, of course, Pastor John is smart enough to know this proposal isn't going to get universal applause. So he anticipates the criticism, and then he just preemptively demolishes every possible critique. He has a whole section on potential objections.
Right.
Where he basically treats his own paper as the final word on everything and labels every single objection simply as wrong.
The tone shifts here, doesn't it? He goes from being this sort of sarcastic salesman to more like an authoritarian dictator of grammar. Let's break down these dismissals because they're key to the whole confrontational humor of the piece. First objection, most obvious one, that's sexist.
And his answer is just designed to shock, to stop the conversation dead. He says, so is biology. Talk to your chromosomes.
Whoa, okay.
It's a brilliant rhetorical move, though. He's using this big philosophical idea that biological sex itself involves inherent differences or inequities to defend a simple grammatical choice. He's basically saying, you want to talk about fundamental unfairness, let's talk about stuff we can't change, like biology, not stuff we can just decide on, like pronouns. It's like deploying a rhetorical nuke to shield himself from debate.
It's definitely confrontational. And yeah, it totally shifts the argument away from language and back to something huge and unchangeable. You can't argue chromosomes with a style guide. Okay. Objection number 2 he tackles is probably the most common intellectual argument against going backwards. That's outdated.
And this is where we get that fantastic use of physics to defend grammar. His answer, so is gravity, but you still fall when you trip.
That's great.
Isn't it? Gravity, just like his universal he, is this fundamental, undeniable force. It's ancient, sure, it's not new or shiny, but it works every single time. Pastor John is basically attacking our obsession with novelty. Why throw something away just because it's old, especially if it's foundational?
He's arguing that ancient doesn't automatically mean obsolete. It could just mean proven. He connects tiny pronouns to the massive laws of the universe, forcing you to think about the value of things that last.
Which leads perfectly into the third objection, the argument that underpins almost all modern linguistic debates.
No.
Language evolves. That's the justification for neopronouns, for constant change, right?
Right, the engine of change.
And Pastor John just completely flips it on its head. He counters. It did. That's how we got he. You're welcome.
Oh, that's clever.
It's such a humorous inversion. He's redefining the timeline. He's suggesting, no, language evolution already happened centuries ago. It produced he, this current state, this anxious mess of new terms. That's the deviation. That's the problem that needs fixing. He's essentially claiming linguistic history peaked with the universal he, and everything since has just been noise. Or maybe regression. It's a totally self-serving argument, of course, but rhetorically very slick. By framing he as the successful end product of evolution, he automatically paints all later changes as, unnecessary mutations or errors.
Okay, and then the fourth objection, this is the one that really feels like the philosophical heart of the whole piece, the one that shifts it from just comedy to actual critique. This sounds like a joke.
Yeah, this is maybe the most important line in the whole document. It's worth pausing on. Pastor John's answer here is surprisingly chilling and quite insightful. He says, of course it does. All truth sounds like comedy in the age of madness.
Wow. Okay, unpack that. All truth sounds like comedy in the age of madness.
He's arguing, I think, that we live in such a hyper-polarized, overloaded, anxious world now. A world where absurdity is normal and truth itself often feels slippery, relative. So in that context, a simple, maybe even sensible truth, even if it's an old truth that feels old-fashioned, is inevitably going to sound like a parody. It's going to sound like a joke compared to the frantic complexity we've gotten used to.
So the satire stops being just funny at that point. It becomes this genuine, sharp critique of how we even talk to each other now, how we decide what's real or serious.
Exactly. It suggests our current environment is so unstable, so constantly redefining things, that maybe the only thing left that feels solid is something simple and known. Even if that simplicity seems laughable at first glance, it's a really powerful defense of his whole satirical method.
Okay, so moving from that deep philosophical point back to chaotic practicalities, Pastor John lays out his implementation plan. 3 steps, remarkably simple, and utterly guaranteed to cause chaos. 3 steps to world peace.
He presents it with all the subtlety of a bulldozer. Step 1, direct action. Everyone just starts saying he again, immediately. No workshops, no transition period. Just do it.
Step 2, The internet collapses in confusion. He actually lists this as a necessary step.
Right. It's not a bug, it's a feature. He acknowledges that radically changing basic communication rules overnight will completely break the existing digital world. All the comment sections, the automated filters, the algorithms, the endless guides and FAQs built on the old complex system. Oof, gone.
He sees the chaos as productive somehow.
Yeah, like a cleansing fire. If the internet collapses, then all those systems of anxious compliance, constant critique, algorithmic enforcement, they all get wiped out. It destroys the infrastructure of linguistic anxiety. And only after that happens can we get to step 3, the grand finale, peace on earth.
It's such a perfect satirical chain of logic. The only thing stopping global harmony is pronoun friction. Eliminate the friction, get world peace. The sheer massive leap in scale there from grammar to utopia is what makes it so hilarious.
And then, just to make sure step 2 happens extra fast, we get the brilliant optional add-on.
Oh, yeah, the add-on.
He suggests printing t-shirts that read who, him, whatever. And the explicit goal is to watch the culture wars implode in real time.
That t-shirt, it's the ultimate statement of pure exhaustion, isn't it? It mocks the whole performance of identity. That's the he, him part. But then it immediately mocks the resistance and the arguments, too, with the whatever. It's like provocative surrender designed to just break the whole argument machine.
And that phrase, implode in real time, he's suggesting that if you mash together the required format listing pronouns with total indifference, the entire political energy around it just cancels itself out. It self-destructs. It's the ultimate linguistic chaos bomb.
And that brings us right to the real point, the moral of the story that Pastor John lays out in his conclusion.
Right. He summarizes the current climate by saying, basically, society now treats using the wrong vowel like it's arson, like it's a major crime. The situation is so tense, he argues, that any movement, any change requires real bravery, radicalism, even if that radicalism is just looking backwards.
He's saying it actually takes more guts now to go back to something simple than it does to keep inventing more complexity and defending it.
Exactly. And Pastor John finally synthesizes the actual serious point buried under all the jokes. In this age of just relentless novelty where it feels like we're inventing a new truth every 5 minutes, maybe the boldest, most defiant act of rebellion isn't creating something new. Maybe it's just remembering a simple truth that, already worked.
He completely flips the script. Suddenly, chasing novelty is the problem, the pathology. And the old forgotten answer becomes the radical future. The whole document isn't really a policy proposal at all, is it? It's more like a plea for semantic sanity in a world he thinks has gone mad with constant redefinition.
Precisely. And he finishes with that amazing rallying cry for his retro revolution. It ties together the simplicity and the huge promise. He for all for he. 3 letters to heal a nation.
It's a slogan that's simultaneously hilarious because it's so over the top, but also kind of resonates because it taps into that desire people have for some simple, unifying answer to all these really complex cultural fights.
It definitely hits a nerve.
So, okay, as we wrap up our look at Pastor John's unique proposal, I think the core takeaway for you listening is this. This document uses really high-level, very pointed satire to make a serious critique. A critique of linguistic hypercomplexity and the anxiety that seems to come with it. It argues that sometimes the simplest answer, even if it's an old answer, recycled simplicity, might actually be the most radical stance you can take in today's world.
Absolutely. I think the paper's real brilliance is in that framing. It's a thought experiment disguised as a policy paper. It really forces you to think about that line, that sometimes blurry line between genuine necessary efforts towards linguistic equity and the huge administrative burden and psychological anxiety that can come from constant, sometimes fear-driven linguistic change. It's a reminder that knowing the past, even the linguistic past, can be a really powerful, almost subversive thing in our hyper-present moment.
It was a truly remarkable piece of writing to analyze. It manages to look at this specific kind of modern anxiety through the lens of grammar and pronouns and somehow make it incredibly entertaining. The humor works, I think, precisely because the underlying stress it points to is something so many people feel.
For sure. We laugh because, on some level, we recognize the absurdity of the situation he's describing.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought for you to consider. If the most extreme progressive solution Pastor John can satirically imagine today is simply rebranding the linguistic status quo from 50 years ago as He 2.0, well, what other areas of modern life might be confusing relentless complexity and the anxiety that comes with it with actual, genuine progress?